Hello, and welcome to this lesson of our C Programming Foundations tutorial series. I'm Reza, and I'm happy to have you join me on this journey to mastering the C programming language. In the previous video, we covered passing basic data types to a function. Now, we will explore how to achieve the same for derived data types such as arrays, strings, and structures. Alright, so this piece of code is a pretty straightforward C program that's all about showing off the contents of an array. 1. First up, there's a function named printArray declared at the top. This function is the star of the show. Its job is to print out each element of an array. 2. Jumping into the main function, it kicks off by creating an array named numbers filled with 5 integers 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Neat and simple, right? But how big is this array? That's where a bit of math comes in. The size of the array is calculated using a formula that divides the total size of the array by the size of one element. This tells us how many elements are in there. 3. After setting up the array and figuring out its size, the program then prints a little message. Array elements. It's like a heads up saying, here comes the array. Then it calls the printArray function, sending over the numbers array and its size. 4. Inside printArray, there's a loop that runs through the array, printing each number followed by a space. After all the numbers are printed, it wraps things up with a new line for a neat finish. Let's dive into this piece of code. It's a simple C program that's all about printing a string. 1. First up, we've got this function called displayText that's designed to take a string as an input and then print it out. Think of it like a megaphone that just shouts out whatever you give it. 2. In the main part of the program, we create this string or a bunch of characters and we call it greeting. It's like a label we stick on something we want to say, which in this case is hello world. 3. Then we get to the action part. We call the displayText function and hand it our greeting. It's like we're saying, hey, here's my message, go ahead and announce it. 4. And that's exactly what displayText does. It takes our greeting and prints it out for us. So the whole program is like someone preparing a message and then using a function to broadcast it. Simple, but pretty neat. Alright, let's dive into this C program, which is all about creating and showing off a person's details. 1. So first up, we've got this structure or struct named person. Think of a struct like a little personalized box where we can keep related stuff together. In this case, our box has 2 compartments, one for a name, a string of characters, and another for an age, an integer. 2. Next, there's a declaration for the displayPerson function. It's like a mini presentation tool that takes a person struct and shows what's inside it. 3. In the main function, which is where our program starts and does its thing, we make a new person named person1. We then fill up person1 his compartments with a name, John Doe, and an age, 25. Think of it like labeling and filling up our box. 4. Once our person is all set up, we call displayPerson and hand it our person1. 5. DisplayPerson then takes person1, looks inside and prints out the name and age to the screen. It's like opening the box and showing everyone what's inside. So essentially, this code is about making a person, filling it with details, and then showing those details. Pretty neat and organized way to handle information about people, right? Let's dive into this code. It's a cool example of how you can use structures and pointers in C to handle data more efficiently. 1. First off, we've got a struct named person that's set up to store a person's name and age. Pretty straightforward. 2. Now, here's where it gets interesting. We've got this function displayPerson, but instead of taking a regular person struct, it takes a pointer to a person struct. Think of a pointer like an address pointing to where the actual data lives in your computer's memory. 3. In the main function, we create a person named person1 and fill in the details, name as John Doe and age as 25. Then, instead of passing the whole struct to display person, we just pass the address of person1. That's what ampersand person1 does. 4. When display person gets this pointer, it uses it to access person1's data. It's like having directions to a house and then looking inside the house. The arrow operator is used to access the struct's fields through the pointer. So display person just reads the name and age from this address and prints them out. This method is super efficient because we're not making a whole copy of the person struct. We're just working with the pointer that tells us where to find the original data. It's like having a shortcut to the data rather than carrying the data around. Here is a code challenge for you to get more practice. Simple phone book.